Close your eyes for a moment. I want you to imagine a world that existed millions of years ago. Forget about dinosaurs for a second. Instead, picture a lush green landscape. Think of vast wetlands, winding rivers, and sparkling lakes stretching as far as the eye can see. Now imagine you hear a splash in the water nearby. It's not a small fish or a turtle. It's something much, much bigger. What if I told you that in this ancient world the top predator in the water wasn't a crocodile, but an otter? And not just any otter. I'm talking about an otter the size of a modern-day wolf, or even as big as a lion. It's an incredible thought, isn't it? This isn't a scene from a fantasy movie. This was reality, long before humans walked the earth. These weren't your cute, hand-holding sea otters we know and love today. These were true giants, powerful creatures that dominated their aquatic homes. They were the kings of the river, the rulers of the swamp. Imagine seeing one of these magnificent animals sunning itself on a riverbank, its thick fur glistening in the prehistoric sun. Its sheer size would be breathtaking. You would immediately understand that this was an animal you had to respect. This was a world where otters ruled like lions, a forgotten chapter in our planet's amazing history. So let's dive in together. We're going on an adventure back in time, about 6 million years into the past. We'll travel to ancient wetlands in what is now China and Ethiopia. We will explore a world teeming with strange and wonderful creatures, from three-toed horses to giant hyenas. But our main focus will be on these incredible supersized otters. We'll uncover their story, piece by piece, just like paleontologists do with fossils. We will learn what they looked like, how they lived, and why, sadly, they are no longer with us. It's a story of evolution, adaptation, and survival in a constantly changing world. Are you ready to meet these prehistoric giants? It's a journey that will change the way you see otters forever. You'll discover that the playful little creatures we see in zoos and wildlife documentaries have a family history that is truly epic. They come from a long line of survivors and innovators, with ancestors who were some of the most impressive predators of their time. By understanding their past, we can better appreciate the otters of today and the challenges they face. So, grab your gear because we're about to explore the lost world of the lion-sized otters. It's going to be an incredible expedition. Before we meet our giant friends, let's talk about their family. Otters belong to a group of animals called mustelids. Now that might sound like a complicated scientific word, but it's really just the name for a super cool family of carnivorous mammals. You probably know a lot of its members already. We're talking about weasels, badgers, ferrets, minks, and wolverines. All of these animals are related. They are known for being clever, curious, and often very tenacious. They typically have long, slender bodies, short legs, and a real knack for hunting. This family is incredibly diverse, with members living all over the world, from the frozen Arctic to tropical rainforests. The Mustelid family tree goes way back in time, over 25 million years. Think about that. Their ancestors were small, weasel-like creatures that scurried through ancient forests. Over millions of years they evolved and diversified, adapting to different environments and opportunities. Some became expert burrowers like badgers, others became fierce forest hunters like wolverines. And one special branch of this family decided to take to the water. These were the very first otters. They found a world of food and safety in rivers, lakes, and oceans, and they adapted perfectly to their new aquatic lifestyle, becoming some of the most successful semi-aquatic predators on the planet. This journey into the water was a huge evolutionary step. Early otters developed streamlined bodies that helped them glide effortlessly through the current. They grew dense, waterproof fur to keep them warm and dry even in cold water. Their paws became webbed, turning them into powerful paddles for swimming, and they became incredible hunters, using their sharp teeth and sensitive whiskers to find fish, crabs, and other prey hiding underwater. This successful blueprint allowed otters to spread across the globe, from North America to Asia, from Europe to Africa. They became a vital part of freshwater and marine ecosystems everywhere they went. But evolution is always experimenting, always pushing the boundaries. While most otter species remained relatively small and agile, a few lineages took a different path. In a world filled with giant animals, some otters also went big. Really big. This is where our story gets exciting. During a period called the Miocene Epoch, from about 23 to 5 million years ago, the conditions were just right for some otter species to evolve into true giants. They grew to sizes that would dwarf any otter alive today, becoming formidable predators that could hold their own against other large carnivores of their time. Alright, it's time for the main event. Let's meet the stars of our show, the giant prehistoric otters. The first one I want you to meet is called Siamogale melilutra. What a name, right? It was discovered in the Shitangba fossil site in southwestern China, a place that was a lush, swampy wetland about 6 million years ago. When paleontologists first found its skull, it was crushed almost completely flat. But using amazing technology, they were able to digitally reconstruct it. What they found was astonishing. This wasn't just a big otter, it was a giant. It's estimated that Siamogale weighed around 110 pounds, or 50 kilograms. That's twice the size of the largest living otter, the giant river otter of South America. Imagine an otter the size of a wolf, with a powerful body and a massive head. That was Siamogale. But what's really fascinating is its teeth. The name melilutra actually means badger otter because its teeth had some features similar to those of a badger. It had large, rounded molars which were not just for slicing fish. These powerful teeth suggest that Siamogale was a specialist in crushing hard shells. It was likely a master at eating big freshwater snails, clams, and perhaps even turtles. It had a bite force that would have made short work of any tough-shelled prey it could find in its swampy home. But Siamogale wasn't the only giant on the block. Let's travel from China to Africa to the ancient river systems of Ethiopia. Here another giant otter once roamed, and this one was even bigger. Its name is Enhydriodon omoensis. This creature was a true heavyweight champion of the otter world. Scientists estimate it could have weighed up to 440 pounds or 200 kilograms. That's the size of a modern lion. Can you even picture that? An otter as heavy as a lion, swimming in the rivers of ancient Africa. It is, without a doubt, the largest otter that ever lived. It truly earned its nickname, the lion otter. Unlike its Chinese cousin, Enhydriodon seems to have been less of an aquatic specialist. Analysis of its bones suggests it may have spent more time on land than other otters, both ancient and modern. It was likely an ambush predator using its size and strength to hunt a wide variety of prey, not just shellfish. It lived alongside our own early human ancestors like Australopithecus. Imagine our distant relatives living in a world where they had to be cautious of lion-sized otters near the water's edge. It completely changes our picture of the past and proves that the story of life on Earth is full of incredible surprises. So what was life actually like for these giant otters? Let's start with Siamogale and its swampy home in ancient China. Picture a vast, warm wetland, filled with shallow water, dense vegetation, and a rich supply of food. This was the perfect habitat for a creature with a specialized diet. Siamogale likely spent much of its day in the water, using its powerful webbed feet to propel its large body through the shallows. Its sensitive whiskers would have been constantly twitching, searching the muddy bottom for the telltale signs of large mussels, snails, or crabs hidden in the sediment. It was a patient and powerful hunter in its domain. When it found its prey, its unique adaptations would come into play. Siamogale had an incredibly powerful jaw and those big badger-like teeth we talked about. It wouldn't have nibbled on its food. Instead, it would have used its formidable bite to crack open the toughest shells with a single, decisive crunch. Crunch. Just like that, it could access the nutritious meal inside. This ability to eat hard-shelled prey, known as durophagy, meant it had access to a food source that many other predators couldn't touch. This gave it a huge advantage and allowed it to grow to such an impressive size in its specialized niche. Now, let's head over to Africa and check in on the colossal Enhydriodon. Life for this lion otter was likely very different. It lived in an environment with broad rivers and open grasslands, sharing the landscape with a diverse array of large animals, including early elephants, saber-toothed cats, and our own ancestors. Chemical analysis of its teeth suggests that Enhydriodon was not a full-time aquatic animal. It was what we call a terrestrial predator, meaning it spent a significant amount of its time hunting on land. It was likely more like a bear in its habits than a modern otter, comfortable both in the water and on solid ground. Given its massive size and powerful build, Enhydriodon probably hunted much larger prey than any otter today. It wouldn't have been chasing small fish or crushing snails. Instead, it might have hunted animals the size of small antelope or large catfish-like fish that lived in the rivers. It was a top-tier predator, an apex hunter in its semi-aquatic world. It would have used its immense strength and bulk to overpower its victims, likely ambushing them near the water's edge. Its presence would have shaped the behavior of all other animals in the ecosystem, forcing them to be wary of both the land and the water. When we compare these prehistoric giants to their modern relatives, the differences are striking. Today's otters, from the small Asian small-clawed otter to the larger sea otter, are known for their playful, energetic, and highly social behavior. They are agile swimmers, using their flexible spines and webbed feet to chase fish with incredible speed. They are built for efficiency and quickness in the water. They are masters of a fast-paced aquatic lifestyle. Many species live in family groups, teaching their young how to hunt and survive, creating a complex social structure that is fascinating to watch. The giant otters of the past, however, were built on a completely different scale. Think about Siamogale. While it was certainly an otter, its body was more robust and less flexible than that of a modern river otter. Its movements would have been slower, more deliberate, and more powerful. It wasn't built for chasing fast-moving fish through open water. Instead, it was a specialist, a heavyweight crusher perfectly designed for its specific diet of hard-shelled mollusks. Its strength was its main asset, not its speed. It was less of a water acrobat and more of a watery tank, methodically working its way through the swamp's abundant shellfish beds. Now consider the lion otter, Enhydriodon. It breaks the mold of what we think an otter should be. Modern otters are almost entirely dependent on the water for their food, but evidence suggests Enhydriodon was a terrestrial hunter. This puts it in a category of its own, somewhere between a modern otter and a large land carnivore like a bear. It represents an evolutionary experiment where an otter lineage left the water to compete with land-based predators. It was a giant that walked the earth, a far cry from the sleek swimmers we see today. This shows just how adaptable the Mustelid family can be. Even when compared to other prehistoric giants, these otters were unique. The Miocene world was full of huge animals, from giant rhinos to massive bear dogs. But Siamogale and Enhydriodon carved out their own special place in these ancient ecosystems. They weren't just big for the sake of being big. Their size was a direct response to their environment and their diet. Siamogale needed its size and power to be a master shellcracker, and Enhydriodon needed its bulk to hunt large prey on land and in water. They were not just bigger versions of modern otters, they were entirely different kinds of animals, perfectly adapted to a world we can now only imagine. How did these giant otters fit into their ancient food chains? In the swamps of 6-million-year-old China, Siamogale melilutra was a major player. It was a specialized consumer, meaning it focused on a particular type of food. By being able to crush the shells of the largest mollusks and crabs, it tapped into a rich food source that was unavailable to other animals with weaker jaws. This specialization meant it didn't have to compete directly with predators that were chasing fish or hunting land animals. It was the undisputed king of the shellfish buffet, a powerful force that helped control the populations of these invertebrates in its ecosystem. Because of its size and power, an adult Siamogale probably had very few natural enemies. A large prehistoric crocodile might have posed a threat, but it's just as likely that the giant otter could defend itself effectively. It occupied a high position on the food web, a dominant predator within its specific habitat. Its presence would have had ripple effects throughout the swamp. By keeping mollusk populations in check, it might have indirectly helped aquatic plants to thrive, creating a healthier and more balanced wetland environment for all the creatures that lived there. It was an important and perhaps even essential part of its world. Across the globe in Africa, Enhydriodon played an even more dominant role. As a massive 440-pound carnivore, it was without a doubt an apex predator. It lived in an ecosystem filled with fearsome competitors, including saber-toothed cats and giant hyenas. But Enhydriodon had a unique advantage. It was comfortable both on land and in the water. This amphibious lifestyle meant it could hunt where other large predators couldn't. It could snatch a young hippo from the water's edge or ambush a grazing antelope that came too close to the riverbank for a drink. It was a versatile and formidable hunter. This lion-sized otter would have been a creature that all other animals feared and respected. Even our own early ancestors, the hominins who shared its habitat, would have known to stay clear of the water's edge. Finding the fossil remains of Enhydriodon, alongside those of early humans, gives us a thrilling glimpse into the dangers of their world. It wasn't just lions and leopards they had to worry about. A monster otter could have been lurking in the reeds. Enhydriodon was a true keystone species, a powerful predator whose hunting habits would have shaped the very structure of its entire ecosystem. If these giant otters were so successful and so powerful, why are they no longer with us? The story of their extinction is a powerful lesson in how quickly our planet can change. For Siamogale, the shell-crushing giant of China, the answer likely lies in its very specialized lifestyle. It was perfectly adapted to a world of warm, lush wetlands filled with an endless supply of large mollusks. But this specialization, which was once its greatest strength, eventually became its fatal weakness. It had put all of its evolutionary eggs in one basket, and that basket was about to be turned upside down. Around the end of the Miocene epoch, the global climate began to change. It became cooler and drier. The vast, stable wetlands that Siamogale called home started to shrink and disappear. The rivers and lakes changed, and the abundant populations of large shellfish that it depended on began to decline. Without its primary food source, the giant otter could not survive. It was too big and too specialized to adapt to a new diet of small fish or land animals. Its massive size, which required a huge amount of calories, became a liability. The world changed, and Siamogale simply couldn't change with it. The story of Enhydriodon in Africa is similar, though perhaps more complex. It too faced a changing climate. As Africa became more arid, the large rivers and lush vegetation it depended on began to recede. This environmental shift would have reduced the available prey, both in the water and on land. But Enhydriodon also faced increasing competition. As the landscape changed, new, highly efficient predators like the ancestors of modern lions, leopards, and hyenas began to dominate. These new carnivores were faster and perhaps better adapted to hunting on the open savanna that was replacing the woodlands. The lion otter, for all its size and power, may have been outcompeted. It was a creature of the shrinking boundary between water and land. As that boundary changed, it was squeezed from both sides by environmental shifts and new, more modern predators. It was a giant from an older world, and its time was coming to an end. The extinction of these magnificent beasts wasn't a single event but a slow process, driven by the powerful forces of climate change and evolutionary competition. The world that had created them was vanishing, and sadly they vanished along with it. The incredible story of these lion-sized otters is more than just a cool piece of prehistory. It holds important lessons for us today. First, it teaches us about the amazing power of evolution. It shows how life can adapt in spectacular ways to fill every possible niche in an ecosystem. Who would have thought that a family of small, weasel-like animals could produce a creature as big as a lion? It demonstrates that nature is constantly experimenting, creating a breathtaking diversity of life. The existence of Siamogale and Enhydriodon reminds us that the history of life on Earth is full of wonders we are still just beginning to uncover. Their story is also a stark reminder of the link between species and their environment. Siamogale thrived because it was perfectly suited to its swampy world. Enhydriodon ruled because it was a master of its riverine kingdom. But when those environments changed, these powerful animals disappeared. This shows us how fragile that connection can be. Even the biggest and strongest creatures are vulnerable when their habitat is altered or destroyed. Climate change is not a new phenomenon. It has been shaping life on our planet for billions of years, and it is one of the most powerful forces of extinction. This directly connects to the challenges we face in the modern world. Today, our planet is changing faster than ever before, largely due to human activity. We are seeing habitats shrink, climates shift, and ecosystems fall out of balance. The story of the giant otters serves as a powerful cautionary tale. If a creature as formidable as a 440-pound lion otter could be driven to extinction by environmental change, what does that mean for the species that are alive today? It shows us that no species is immune to the consequences of a rapidly changing world, and it underscores the urgency of our conservation efforts. Finally, the fossils of these ancient animals teach us about the importance of biodiversity. The world of the Miocene was rich with a huge variety of life forms, including these giant otters. Each species played a unique role in its ecosystem. When they went extinct, their ecosystems were changed forever. The loss of any species makes the world a poorer place. By studying these lost giants, we gain a deeper appreciation for the complex web of life, and for every single species that is a part of it today, from the smallest insect to the largest whale. Our journey back in time to meet the lion-sized otters has been incredible. We've seen how these magnificent creatures once ruled the ancient waterways, dominating their ecosystems with their size and power. Their story is a thrilling chapter in the history of our planet. But their story did not end with them. Their legacy continues today in their smaller but no less amazing relatives. The 13 species of otters that live across the globe are the direct descendants of this epic evolutionary line. They carry the same spark of adaptability and resilience that allowed their ancestors to thrive for millions of years. However, today's otters face their own set of monumental challenges. They are no longer threatened by shifting continents or natural climate change. Instead, they are threatened by us. Habitat loss from deforestation and development is shrinking their homes. Pollution from farms and cities is poisoning their rivers and food sources. Overfishing is depleting the prey they need to survive. And in some parts of the world they are still illegally hunted for their fur. Many otter species, including the giant river otter and the sea otter, are now endangered or vulnerable. The story of their extinct ancestors gives us a clear warning. We saw how environmental changes led to the downfall of the mighty Siamogale and Enhydriodon. We are now causing similar but much faster changes to our planet. If we are not careful, we risk pushing our modern otters down the same path to extinction. But here's the good news: unlike the natural forces of the past, we have the power to change our actions. We can make a difference. We can work to protect our rivers and oceans, clean up pollution, and create safe habitats where otters can thrive. By supporting conservation organizations, making sustainable choices in our daily lives, and spreading awareness, we can help write a different ending for today's otters. We can ensure that future generations will be able to marvel at the sight of a playful river otter or a sea otter floating on its back. The ghosts of the lion-sized otters remind us of what can be lost. Let them inspire us to protect what we still have. Let's work together to make sure that the age of otters, big and small, never truly comes to an end. It's a mission worth fighting for.